Ready?
No.
No.
Like I said, they put me in the sun. I see that.
It's hot out here for sure.
Oh, it is. There you go. Yeah, we go.
Can you kind of put it right here so you know his notes? There we go. Can you see that? I'll show you.
Yep.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon, Officer Damon Miller, Public Information Officer for Tallahassee Police Department. I'm going to introduce to you our interim Chief of Police, Steve Outlaw.
All right. Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for sticking around for the release. At approximately 8:33 this morning, the Consolidated Dispatch Agency received a call via 911 of a stabbing that was occurring in their workplace. And the workplace is Dyke Industries at 2011 Maryland Circle. And so as officers arrived, they were able to track the suspect as his description had been released to them. And they were able to encounter and engage the suspect and take him into custody shortly, almost immediately upon arrival at the location here. The gentleman's name, the suspect's name, is Antoine Demetrius Brown, 41 years old. I'm sorry?
Spell his name for us.
Antoine, Antwaann, Demetrius, Demetris, Brown, Brown, and again, 41 years old. And I would like to also note some of the heroic actions as we understand it at this point, guys. Is very preliminary information that we've got. That upon the gentleman leaving after he stabbed his co-workers, upon leaving, that several employees armed themselves with whatever they could and tried to engage him, and actually held him at bay at one point while officers were arriving, and then he again started his flight. Upon which time the officer took him into custody.
Mr. Brown been recently fired from this position?
As far as we know, there is no employment issues that were pending or that he knew about.
Is Mr. Brown an employee?
Yes, Mr. Brown is an employee.
We know how long his tenure, what he did here.
From what we understand, again, this is very preliminary, approximately 3.5 months. He clocked in at 8 o'clock this morning. He was engaged in some kind of a dispute at work. He was told to clock out. He clocked out at 8:20. And then we received the call at the CDA at approximately 8:33.
Do you know what it was about?
No, sir, I do not.
Was the apprehending officer injured?
No.
Suspect
Nor was Mr. Brown. Was he injured also? Was not.
Did he arrive with a knife?
We do not know.
What kind of knife was it?
It's our understanding it was a smaller, probably a common pocket knife type size.
Was it a physical dispute, verbal altercation?
There was no physical dispute reported. It appeared to be just verbal only with co-workers or supervisors. We don't know that at this point.
What are the conditions of the victim's right now?
We'll have to defer that to Tallahassee Memorial Healthcare, as everybody who's been admitted are patients, and they can give a more accurate accounting of their status.
You don't expect any of the victims to die? Is that correct?
As we stand here now, no.
Where's the suspect now?
He is being interviewed.
Was he at all injured?
No. We have no known or reported injuries on the suspect.
And how was he apprehended?
He was challenged by a police officer who arrived, and they took him into custody.
And where was that?
It was close by, within about a block from here, from my understanding.
From this first stabbing to his apprehension, how long did that take?
I don't have that information at this point. We can get that. We'll release that at a later point.
Was it about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour?
No, it was probably 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to guess.
How quickly did officers arrive?
They arrived within 4 minutes of being dispatched.
What's the relationship between the suspect and some of the victims? Are they supervisors, fellow employees? Can you describe that at all?
We don't have that at this time.
Did he seem to be going after particular people, or was just anybody that got in his way? Or?
He, from what we know now, he appeared that he was actually had sought out certain victims, as they were not on a particular line as he was departing the workplace.
We
No, we don't have those.
And today is September 11th. I'm pretty sure you all were already on kind of high alert. Can you talk to me about your reactions, your officers' reactions, and how does this help you guys in this investigation right now?
Well, we're going to have to separate that. You know, we were actually at the city's 9/11 ceremony, memorial ceremony, at Station 16 near the public safety complex. And so it was right in the middle of the ceremony that I was actually notified of that, and we had responding officers coming. And that was all city responding officers. That's fire department, police department, then the county EMS. And so you can't help but wonder on the first blush when you hear that, is this related to the anniversary? You just can't help but wonder that. Very, very sad occasion. And so all of our responding officers, they're also very cognizant of what day this is. Again, you can't help but wonder. But fortunately, from what we can tell, there's no relationship to the anniversary.
I'm wondering if you can go through the TicToc again from the moment that he walked in to the first stabbing and where he moved throughout the building.
Yeah, what he's asking, if we have a timeline of the exact sequence of events, we don't have that yet. Our investigators will be talking and continuing their interviews with all the victims and other witnesses that were not assaulted or battered in this case. And so they'll fine tune that timeline the best they can. If there's any kind of surveillance cameras, etc., they'll try to piece that together, but we don't have that at this point.
So since he was after specific people, I mean, how his movements, did he go around searching from desk to desk or from one part of the building to another looking for those victims?
It's my understanding that you have an inner office and you have a large warehouse area where things are assembled. And again, it appears that he did not go on a straight path to leave the workplace, that he may have sought out either certain offices or certain people. We don't have those dynamics yet.
So he did not leave and return. This all occurred on his way out.
Well, we know that he clocked out at 8:20 this morning. And then I know that we received a phone call, or the CDA received the first phone call at approximately 8:33. And so where was he at? Did he call somebody? Was he trying to get a ride? We don't know what he was doing in those 10, 12, 13 minutes between when he clocked out and when he engaged his victims.
What's being done for the employees? Are they receiving counseling, or are they just, talking to police at the moment?
Yeah, and before I get to that, let me kind of set the stage with our partner responding agencies that have been just instrumental in this whole thing, because it's going to answer that. We had not only TPD, you had TF, Tallahassee Fire Department. We had Leon County EMS arrive. We had the, once they transferred them to the hospital, TMH has been absolutely fantastic in helping us to sort out the number of injuries, because we only know what we do know regarding injured people. We encounter a lot of issues like this to where people self-transport, not only to that hospital or to another hospital, or sometimes they may get injured and go home and say, I'm done with work, and realize I've been injured, I'll report it tomorrow. And so, but TMH has been fantastic in the emergency department on helping to triage, sort out the victims. They were very instrumental in a reunification plan with the arriving families of the victims that could be seen by their families based on their condition. Our other law enforcement partners between the FBI, FDLE, LCSO, just very tremendous helping here secure an original crime scene, going to his house and helping to secure that for an eventual search of his house.
Do you know why there was confusion with 6 patients versus 5 in the beginning?
That happens on almost all incidents when you have multiple victims. It is a very commonplace, because they may get a victim and they think came from this scene, but it's actually non-related. And so that is very common to happen. That's why we're initial reports, we'll put out multiple victims, and then we try to fine tune that to make sure that this victim is related to this. And also sometimes you get victims that have primary wounds from the suspect. Then you have victims that have secondary wounds as they were trying to escape, not by the suspect. And so again, sometimes it takes a while for the emergency room personnel, our investigators, to sort through which injuries are related to what action.
Do you
Can
know
you
how
go
many people
more
were
into
there?
the heroic?
Ma'am?
Do you know how many employees were there at the time?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Can you go more into detail about the heroic actions you were talking about?
I don't have the details. The very preliminary information was the fact that some of the employees, as he was leaving, armed themselves with whatever they could, sticks or whatever they had, building materials they have inside, and it actually held him at bay at what point, of which momentarily that delayed his escape, which was very good for us. Again, but he got up, started to leave again, and at some point the officer engaged him and took him
What do
into
you mean
custody.
he got up? Was he knocked down?
Apparently, when they held him at bay, they had him on the ground.
Did they hit him with those sticks or any other?
I don't know.
So when officers arrived, he was on the ground?
No, he had already left his co-workers
Okay.
and had started his travel away from here again.
So where was he caught exactly? On this property or away? Do you know?
No, it was away. It was probably within a block.
Why can't you tell us where?
I don't know. All that will still be determined. Yes, ma'am.
As far as motives, I know we were still asking questions and all that, but is there any specific motives as of now that we are aware of?
No, ma'am. We do not have a motive. That's why we bring out our other partners at the federal level, the FBI, and the state, to find out if there's any other background of concern. And we have no other background of concern at this point.
What can you tell us about the actual company? What do they do there? Anything?
You're going to be better served by going to the website.
Okay.
And they appear to make construction and building materials, doors and windows. Now, what they make at this site, I really couldn't tell you.
Can you tell us who he was going after?
Okay, good.
Is he cooperating with detectives right now?
He appears to be. They've been interviewing for a while. Now, I do not know the status of the interview. We're not going to interrupt the interview, and we just let it go, let it play out.
Can you tell us who he was going after and why?
We don't know motive.
But who? Were they managers or?
Yes, ma'am.
Did it seem planned, or was it the argument or the altercation that sparked the stab?
Yeah, there is nothing to indicate that he was giving an indication of his plans or his motives or anything else. Now, as far as we know, it was spontaneous.
Are they interviewing him at the office or here?
Yeah, that'll probably continue to occur at the police department.
Do we have any information as far as ages of the victims, anything right now?
No, ma'am. No. Once we transfer their patient, they go inside the hospital. They enjoy patient status, and that's where we kind of leave that
Have
with
they
the
shut down
hospital.
operations for the day?
I do not know. I'm going to make a presumption, because we will have a presence here as a crime scene for quite a long time, trying to determine path and sequence of events. And so I'm going to venture to say, not stepping inside the building myself, I'm going to say that's probably very disruptive to their daily operations, and it probably is shut down.
Have you heard anything from the governor or any state officials, anything like that?
No, our city manager's office, our mayor and commissioners, they're very supportive as to whatever we need.
We're coming off a deadly weekend here in Tallahassee. Can you kind of address, where you guys stand? I know you guys are actively working to do your investigations, but can you just kind of address the people of Tallahassee about this being isolated and, just do we need to be on alert right now?
No, we do not. Very good question. Thank you for the opportunity. But no, all the actions that we have had this weekend, the first one up in Brittany Estates, that we don't have the motive on that. That's still under active investigation. The unfortunate incident with the theater, they were acquaintances. And then the shooting at the community center, they were also acquaintances, and that was deemed to be an accident. And then this appears to be completely isolated also.
Now, when you say spontaneous, what makes it? Can you explain what you mean by that? Spontaneous. How does someone just pull out a?
Spontaneously.
Yeah. Well, I mean, was there anything that might have triggered?
We don't know. That would lead it to a motive, and we don't have a motive. And again, somebody had asked about aftercare for the patients and the families. That is very detrimental to families. When you get a phone call from your family member that they're injured, or maybe somebody calls on their behalf. And so we have a whole unit of victim advocates that are specially trained to provide these services. And so they are actively engaged with our victims' families. TMH has a very dynamic core of victim advocates and case managers also that do the same thing. We've had our other partners in the local area between LCSO and the FBI that can also provide victim advocacy assistance where it's needed. And that has been offered, and it's very much appreciated.
And it's taking place in the workplace, can you touch a little bit upon that, being different maybe from other instances that you may see?
It is, because you come back to work every day as maybe an impacted coworker or maybe somebody who wasn't impacted, and the time you walk into to work that next morning, that's a trigger point. And so you can't help but have a flashback of what occurred the previous day. And this will always be an anniversary day for some of the co-workers. To always remember this day, and so we have to be very cognizant of that. And we recognize on advocacy work, we do the best we can to provide immediate consoling as needed, but also to help them get plugged into other resources in the community, other counseling services, again, because we write our reports, we go home, we do reflect on it because it's very much a tragedy. But in those folks' lives, they can't shut it off when we turn our reports in. And so you're very correct, that they're going to be thinking and being haunted by this to various degrees. Everybody processes tragedy differently. And so there's going to be many that do need and deserve some aftercare, and that we want to be in a position to help point them in the right direction and get them linked up with what they can use.
One last question about
Yes, sir.
when he was fleeing on foot when officers arrived, correct? Is that correct?
Yeah, again, how you qualify fleeing, walking, running, we don't have those particulars yet. But at some point, employees tried to engage him, to slow him down or to stop him. He stopped briefly at one point, and then he started his travels again to leave. And at that point, then the officers arrived and took him into custody.
He was outside the building.
Yes.
Can you just kind of, wrap this up for us with the heroics of, just turn this into a positive situation where people do look out for their neighbors and stuff? Just what message would you like to send to people? We're starting off on a very bad note on September 11th. Can you give us a message to people? I'm seeing people saying Tallahassee is not safe right now. Can you just address it for us?
Well, it is safe. And, we do, as the police, as the lead agency in the whole community, as a police agency, we hear those comments all the time. We get asked those same questions. Is this a safe community? I don't have to live here. It is a safe community. And I tell people all the time, as long as you're, typically speaking, and again, there's not a cookie cutter response to this, but as long as you're not dealing in dope, selling dope, or trying to steal somebody else's dope, generally speaking, you're in a safe community. People, most of these crimes, most of them, not all, but most, they're acquaintance crimes. They know the other person. And that's where I just have to kind of leave that.
But can you spell the suspect's name?
Yes, sir, I already did. The first name or last name?
First name, I'm sorry.
Antoine, Antwann. We think that one has 2 N's to it.
2 N's, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
We heard that the manager of that business was most seriously injured. Can you confirm that?
No, sir, I cannot.
Is he one of the victims?
I don't know. I don't know anybody's roles or positions in the corporate level or the company. Again.
As of now, what are the next steps kind of moving forward after this festival?
Well, when it comes to the police response, we're going to have a footprint here for most of the day. Again, just trying to piece together the timelines, the sequence of events, collecting evidence, because you're going to have evidence that could be almost anywhere. They've already canvassed the neighborhood for other security cameras, that we can gain that footage to help be a critical piece to the puzzle of the sequence of events. And so at some point, when we're done with ours, we'll work with the corporation and the company, and we'll say we're done, and then it'll be up to them to figure out what they want to do for their operations. And most larger corporations, and this appears to have a pretty big footprint on the website, we do have other resources they can garner on behalf of their employees.
What charges is the suspect facing right now?
I do not know. This will be something they're working out based on, again, the motive, intent, what he says in the interview.
Do you know if he has a criminal history?
He does have some history. Some of it is older. Some related to some element of violence coming out of Georgia in about between a year and 2 years ago, that we can tell. But that's probably the most recent history. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Someone lost their pick up there.
Are you going to be doing another press conference today?
We don't have a plan unless something just significantly changes.